I am the good shepherd, and know my sheep, and am known of mine. So, there may be some thoughts about how is it that people that go to church cause disruption in church, like gossiping in church, um, you know, spreading rumors, things like that. Or perhaps you know someone goes to church faithfully, and then when they leave church, they become seductress, or this guy may become a cursing sailor. That's what some people call it. They would say this old saying that a person curses like a sailor. I don't get that really, because there's no such thing as cursing like a sailor. Using profanity is just using profanity. But a person that you you wonder how it becomes so easy for people like that to do those types of things. A person to go to church, hear what God's word says, and then they come back home the same way. Does not change. They don't change their bad habits. They don't change their bad behavior. They still mistreat people, and then they turn around and say things like, well, I'm not perfect, or, well, that person shouldn't have done this to me, and that's the reason why I did it. When God's word clearly says about retaliation that vengeance belongs to the Lord. So it's things like that that people tend to overlook, and they think that they're justified for doing what they do. People holding unforgiveness and things like that, and then the list just goes on. There are some psychopathic murderers that believe that they are justified by killing other people. And they'll go to church. And they can go to work and function as if everything is completely normal around them, and that what they're doing is justified. It's perfectly normal. No one should really have a problem with these types of things. They don't see the big deal in it and what they do. Now, when I say these things, I'm talking about many people in general that live double standards. These are people, many of them are not God's sheep. And that's just it. Plain and simple. Jesus said that he knows his sheep, and his sheep know him. That's just it. Plain and simple. Reason why these people that are cold-hearted, shows no remorse, and just don't change their immoral ways, is because they are not his sheep. They do not hear God's voice. That's just it. No matter how religious they may appear to be, no matter how morally good they may appear to be, if they are not obeying God's word, if they are violating God's word, they are not God's sheep. Jesus said they are not hearing his voice. It's the opposite of what he's saying in this verse, which is saying that his sheep hear his voice. They know his voice. They will obey. Many of his sheep are not obeying, of course, but in God's time, he will correct them. But I'm just hoping that what I've brought out today will hopefully explain a lot of the behavior that's happening in the churches and around the world today.